Hotep, peace, shalom, konnichiwa, muy bien. Um, to those I missed, don't crucify me for it. What we're going to be discussing today is some of the sexual addictions um, that have impacted some of our communities, the essence of promiscuity, and how it has impacted, um, one generation to another. Now, when it comes down to sexual addictions, it's not something that is just, a male issue. There are females who have sexual addictions, and there are males who have sexual addictions. And one of the leading causes to sexual addictions is molestation. Okay. So we need to be clear on that. One of the leading causes to sexual addictions is molestation for both male and female. Okay. Now, um, one of the things that I want to talk about when it comes down to sexual addictions is that, um, when it comes down, if you come across a woman that's promiscuous, nine times out of 10, that promiscuity probably stems from being sexually molested or some type of childhood trauma. Same thing for men. Okay, because I think that we cannot get to the root of the problem in some of these relationships and some of the things that are going on between the foundation of the black family. One thing I see that people do not want to talk about is the fact that there are men and women both in the communities that have been molested. And as a result of them being molested and sexually traumatized, the impact of that is sexual addictions. Okay. Now, as I stated, now some of that comes from from the upbringing. Some people's parents or moms or dads may have been sexually molested. So when you come across parents that have been sexually molested who are raising children, oftentimes um, previously in culture, I mean, in the black community, sexual molestation is something that's swept under the rug. So they have to just, get on with their lives and just move on. So, whatever sexual issues that they have, or molesting issues that they have dealt with or experienced, they are not really addressed by that generation. So this type of non-caring attitude is passed on to the next generation, you know, um, and until someone breaks the cycle, it's going to continue to pass on. Okay. Till someone breaks the cycle, till someone steps up and say something and talk more. Now we have had people like Tyler Perry come out and talk about some of the issues. There have been a few people, but not on a mass scale. Um, and in order for people to begin to heal and move on to the next level or to become progressive, um, some people can muscle, girdle their loins and just get it on down the road. But there are others, everybody deals with pain and everybody deals with trauma differently. That's another thing. And because you deal with trauma differently than someone else doesn't mean that you're weak. It just means that you don't know how to deal with trauma the way that the other person does. It doesn't have anything to do with weakness. Um, and one of the things also that I wanted to talk about is oral sex. Okay. Now, when we look back at in our ancient times and our ancient cultures and ancient civilizations, and nobody really wants to talk about that. When we look back at the ancient culture and ancient civilizations, you don't see in our ancient history depictions on the wall of women bent over with a man face in a backside. You don't see pictures of women with their legs spread and a man with his face inside. Okay. You don't see women on their knees um, doing some of the things that women are doing in today's society to a man. Okay. So, one thing we first want to look at is some of the depictions. We got to read the handwriting on the wall. And see, when we talk about diseases and we talk about COVID and people talking about their throat cancers, and some of the reason why some of these people have throat cancers, because you've been going around sucking on the wrong vagina. Nobody want to talk about that. I get on the chat line sometimes and I hear men, I will lick you, give me 30 to 45 minutes and I'll lick you like a lollipop. So my question is, you mean to tell me you are meeting women that you have never met before in your life? You have absolutely no clue about them, and you're putting your mouth on their private parts. Suppose you just got finished having sex with somebody else. So this is to bring awareness to the fact that some of our living and lifestyle is unhealthy. And when we talk about ancient ancestors, I'm looking at these depictions, and that's not how they got down. Okay. So when we wondering why you got something wrong with your throat and they got to do something with your throat, it's because maybe you've been sucking on some of the wrong. Your mouth was meant to eat food and drink, you know. Some of these nasty things, the licking backsides, and then you wondering why your eyes turning orange, and you're wondering why you're having so many health issues, and you got to do all this and all of that. That's because you got stuff and the E. coli stuck and all kinds of bacteria stuck in your throat. Okay. And that goes for men and women, because some of the things that women are doing now to get a man, it doesn't make any sense. Okay. All right. Going, I'm just saying, I don't, if it takes for me to put the mouth that I was born with as a woman on a man's backside, I'll just be manless. Okay? Desperate times can call for desperate measures. And that's disgusting. So when we talk about some of these diseases and these viruses that are popping up and springing up miraculously out of nowhere, do you want to admit that we as human beings are some of the cause to some of these health issues? If your mouth is meant for eating fruit and vegetables and drinking water, why are you putting it in places that it really doesn't belong? I mean, I'm just being honest with you. And women, we're going to have to wake up and realize, when you in a relationship with someone who is you going taking their tongue and going from one lollipop and licking from one crotch to another, and then you wonder why you got a bacterial vaginosis or you wonder why you got a yeast infection, that's because you letting people who go around licking on anything lick your body. Okay? So we need to be clear about some of the causes of some of the health issues that we are facing as people. We don't want to be honest about the nasty behavior that we are conducting. Okay? Let's just be honest here. I want somebody to show me in ancient Kemet, show me in Nubia, show me the Cushites doing some of the things that we are doing right now today sexually. So when you weren't talking about COVID and COVID virus, it's from nasty, disgusting, unsanitary behavior, filth, doing nasty, uncivilized, savage things. See, when you get into the environment amongst uncivilized people, you may begin to adopt that uncivilized mentality and uncivilized behavior. Okay? So that's one of the first things that I want to discuss. Some of the reason that there are so many infectious germs and diseases is because and as a result of the sexual deviance and the nasty sexual behavior that is going on. Don't blame animals. Don't blame the bats and the cats and the animals for why you are suffering from germs, infestations, and health issues. Okay, take full responsibility for your behavior and for your action. Stop blaming because the animals seem to be more civilized than some of these human beings. You don't see the animals going around. Well, I mean, well, yeah, I guess, yeah, well, they do, but we aren't animals. We're human beings. Okay. Oh my goodness, it's just disgusting. Okay. So you can keep that over there. I don't want anything to do with it. Um, I have definitely been receiving death threats. So I'm not really sure. Probably this will probably be one of my last week. This will be my last week posting YouTube videos. I got some people who are angry and jealous. I got some people who are very upset about the Universal Sequential Engineering Institute, and the fact that I didn't graduate from college, but I was able and capable with enough research and study to come up with my own concepts. So you have people out here who want to take credit for your ideas and take credit for your concepts. So that is another reason why I'm receiving death threats, because this Universal Sequential Engineering Institute has definitely angered a lot of people. And you got to understand that there are going to be some people who want to see you make it in life, and there are going to be some people who can't stand the idea of you making it in life. We have to keep that in mind as well. Okay. There are going to be people who are going to do any and every. I've had people do all sorts of things to try to destroy me as a person and as an individual, as a human being. You know, and like I said, the children have watched it. The children have watched how they came in and attempted to destroy my entire life based upon false accusations, okay? Based upon false information, okay? Here in the state of South Carolina, anything goes, okay? Is a anything goes. Um, so we have to, and as you can clearly see, they have started up the firing squad again, okay? It's subliminal messages. All right. So and you know what, another thing I want to talk about, since I'm getting death threats, it's obvious that they want to make me a martyr. But to become a martyr means you've been an inspiration to others. So I'm not taking it. I'm taking it with it. I'm taking it as I have inspired someone in a productive way, to the point that somebody wants me to die. Okay. Um and as I stated, to become a mortal means you have been an inspiration to others. And most of the reason why they want me dead is because, like I said, I have with the situation with the benign condition. We talked about sickle cell and the benign condition in universal sequential engineering, and how this benign condition is, can be found in, diverse geographical locations, one geographical location to another. And another reason is because I have was able to figure out and research and study the tribe that I came from without having to do a DNA test or having to do an ancestry test. Okay, so I didn't buy and feed into the sham. All right. That's one of the reasons why I'm receiving constant death threats, people knocking on my door. Um, I got all kind of things going on. And one thing I want you all to understand is, as a woman of color, it doesn't, starting over, it doesn't it doesn't take much to start over. It's nothing wrong with starting over. So if I have to start all over again, by all means, so be it. Like I said, I have people making videos and they're sending me death threats indirectly. But I mean, I'm here. I'm here. Um, and one thing I want us to understand is that refusal to submit is deadly as well. Jealous people can get so jealous that they'll want to see you. They prefer to see you in the ground than see you doing anything else in life. And another thing about refusal to submit, is deadly. Okay. When you refuse to submit, somebody might want you in the ground, you know? When people there are certain people who hate to see you rise, and see, that's what I wanna talk about, and that's the things that I was saying as a Moor. I'm not a Moor based upon my an organization or affiliation. I'm that based upon my genetic makeup. I was born a Moor. That is my birth name. And because that is my birth name, I have had people who have followed me around my entire life. You know, they don't want to talk about the flip side of being a real Moor. Okay. I've had people to follow me around my entire life, attempting to keep me disenfranchised just because I'm a Moor. Because of the things that the Moors did previously, because the Moors civilized the Europeans, because of the Spanish Inquisition, um, because of all of the contributions that the Moors had made from one civilization and one geographical location to another, I am one of the most hated women on the planet because I was born a Moor. Okay, that is my birth last name. It's not because I joined an organization, I was born that. Okay, so there are people who are out here that are sent out to find people like me who were born a Moor. They are sent out to find us and to ensure that we are disenfranchised and ensure that we are degraded in life, ensure that we are exploited, purposely attempting to keep us disenfranchised so they can capitalize. See, so there are some people who will gain and benefit from your disenfranchisement. There are people who are here taking advantage of that. So, like I said, I've received several death threats. Um, I think that religion is one of the worst things that have happened to our people because it keeps us divided. I don't think that anyone should be forced to embrace any religion. It should be something that is a choice. If your religion is as good as you say it is, and is righteous as you say it is, if it is all that, then a person is going to naturally it's going to they're going to naturally be drawn to that magnetic righteous behavior. You don't have to force them to do anything. They're going to want to be a part of it just based upon how fruitful you are. If you have to force someone, there's a problem. That's not free will. That's not an essence of democracy. And you born free. You born with free will, you know? So those are one of the things I want to talk about. Another thing I want to talk about, I want to know who came up with the stupid idea of defunding the police. Because that's not reality. Any civilization where is no essence of governing is flawless. I think that we could come up with better solutions to some of these problems. But to say to ask for my people to request to have the police defunded and then somebody kick your door in and you gonna need the police to come help you take the report. So to say that defunding the police, that's not gonna work. It's not gonna help. That was a stupid idea. And whoever gave that idea to the Black community, you should run away from them, my people, because they setting you up for failure. It's no way you could have thought that they were going to completely defund all police in America for the comfort of others, or for the comfort, especially of the Black community. So, like I said, whoever pushed and perpetuated the defunding the police idea, they didn't have your best interest at heart, my loves. And you're gonna have to understand and know who who wants the best for you. Somebody gives you a stupid idea like that, that is not even a partial reality. That was idiotic. We got to think for ourselves and be smarter. We got to know what's going to be beneficial to us versus the things that are going to disenfranchise us. Okay. Um, and we got to understand that there are um, assassins, there are um, many who are out here and they have been hired. We have contract killers, and they're not white, not all white. I know you all don't want to believe that, but there are contract killers and they are being paid to pluck certain people off, you know? So we need to begin to understand that the situation that we're facing and the situation that we're dealing with is something that we're going to have to create a solution to. That's why I said polygamy. People think that I'm trying to be funny about polygamous relationships, but I mean, I think that it can be beneficial in our communities if it's practiced in a productive way. Okay. Our women need protection, our children need protection. Okay. And I think that polygamy can help stabilize and incite progression in the communities. Okay. I don't care who doesn't like it. I know people are gonna dislike me because I encourage the idea of polygamy. But I've seen some of these people in marriages where it's only one person and they are absolutely miserable. And polygamy is not about sex. It's about building an empire. It's about self-governing. It is about ensuring that the children are protected. Okay? It's about a variety of things. It's not about sex and perversion. We have to stop thinking of thinking in our lower self, in our lower state of mind. You have to rise to that higher self and see the bigger picture. When you think with your lower self, you only see an aspect. You're not really seeing the entirety. You're not really seeing the full and the big picture. So as I stated, I do with Nature Boy. I think that with the hitting and putting your hands on someone, I think that that is absolutely ridiculous, and I do not encourage violence, especially against a woman. Okay, especially against a woman. But I do encourage the idea of polygamy. If people can productively practice polygamy, if you got the right husband and you got the right wives, it could be phenomenal. I'm not going to sit here and knock my culture down because somebody else doesn't like me talking about it. Somebody else doesn't see the bigger picture or the benefit. Our women outnumber men. That's natural. That's something, and it's not just it's because of wars too. So the children, if there's one, I've learned, and this is from naturalistic observation, if there is one positive male role model in that child's life or in a child's life, they can be productive. So that's what this is about. It's about generations to come. It's not about us right now. It's about generations to come. They don't make men like my grandfather anymore, you know, that is content with that, that is content with their family. Wouldn't ever cheat. He never cheated. They never had a problem with anything like that. They had too much to be focused about as a black man and black woman together trying to make it in a society that was, that was, promoting hatred towards them. All they had was each other. Okay. No, he didn't cheat on her. She didn't cheat on him. They loved each other. A time to, get to have some fun or when let me tell you the type of stuff he would do. And she didn't like. It wasn't no argument and stuff. They would just do things like he knows she didn't like to get in the Corvette. Well, I mean, she liked it, but she didn't particularly care about riding around in that sucker because it sat so low. Okay. So what he would do, what he would do, he would take the tops off. Mhm, and get to blowing the horn and rushing her to hurry up and come on. I got to help her with her hair and stuff like that. She get out there to get in the car. She got to drop down in it. She like drop down. She got to drop down in that thing. You know what I'm saying? He go. She mad 'cause she know what that. See, let me tell you something. I love, baby. Wee. Oh, honey. And they get to going. Go get some ice cream or something. They roll together, go get some ice cream looking all good. And she come back and her hair standing up all across the top of her head. See, that's he didn't have to hit her. He didn't have to put his hand on her. He didn't have to cuss her. He didn't have to call her no bitch. Come on, let's go for a ride. She just came back from there. She just got her hair done and she just did her hair. Come on, let's go for a ride. And she come back there and standing all across the top of her. Wait, you don't know nothing. That's why I say some of these relationships, I would want to be married to your husband to save my life, darling. Because I've seen love in perfection. I've seen it at its greatest peak. And sometimes you have to, and women sometimes if you gotta be content. you know, you gotta be content with certain things. Once you've seen perfection, in the making, you know, you ain't gonna settle for nothing less. You ain't gonna settle. Once you see that first sign that he ain't like what you came from, once you see that sign that he ain't bred or he ain't made like that, huh, honey, it won't work. It just won't work. You know, once you saw a man love a woman and value her in every aspect, and her love and value him in every aspect, and they'll do anything to ensure they're not arguing in front of children. They set a good example for the children. Something that's gonna last. He gone now, and I'm still talking about that love. No cheating, no disrespect, you know, no physical abuse. And it wasn't he was a Christian man. Okay. And he felt like if he mistreated his woman, how were the children supposed to look at him and respect him? How were the grandkids supposed to look at him and respect him? He didn't have outside children. After he laid up and he crawled up with that one, after he got some of that, he didn't want anything else. He was content. He was happy. And the entire community will attest to that. Go and ask anybody, what do you have to say? A righteous man who can find, and once you've seen perfection in the making, I can almost rest assured. I don't care how much money he got. I don't care how much land he got. I don't care how many houses he got. Once you have seen perfection in the making, whether he could have $1 million. It ain't going to change the person that he is. Okay? And I learned that from my grandmother. My grandmother taught me young, learn not to love money. My grandmother didn't teach me to go out here and cock up with a dude or lay up with a man for financial gain and for what he had. Because she didn't lay up with my grandfather and she wasn't with my grandfather for those purposes. They truly loved each other. It wasn't about financial gain and benefit. It was them against the entire world. And they left a legacy behind. Honey, they'll be talking about it even after I'm gone. That's what I'm talking about, their legacy, you know? Ooh. Oh, when the children can look back and say, you know what? That's the type of world I want to be a part of. Not somebody slapping the mama around, somebody disrespecting the daddy, fighting. It's not any of that. Love, real love. And he get up and he go to work, not he go to work and provide because he loves his family. He wants the best for them. He didn't sit around and listen to no other man tell him how to love his woman. I'm gonna say that. Once he got with his woman, he didn't sit around in no barber shop, in no chop shop, in no mechanic shop and talk about the woman that he loved. He didn't do it, and she didn't do it to him either. Whatever the problems they had, they shared amongst themselves. They dealt with it. I didn't even see her talking to her sisters about any problem or anything that they had going on. I don't know. I can't even say there was too much of a problem because you know one thing I learned from them when when they wanted to talk amongst themselves, they went in the room. You could They went in the room, and then it went from them going in the room. If they had something to say to you, they didn't say it in front of children. They took it into the room. Come on, let me talk to you in the room for a minute. Didn't cuss in front of children, didn't do any of those types of things. Come on, let me talk to you for a minute. Because see, if they start disrespecting you and talking to you any kind of way in front of your children, then how are your children supposed to talk to you? So they take you, come on, let me talk to you in the room where the children can't hear. And then you get in there and both of them sitting laid back on the bed. He laid on the bed, she laid on the bed, fanning. And he said, now you such and such and such. Yeah, well, I like that, or I don't like it, or what you need to do about it. They would help the young people figure out their problems. They didn't go, they didn't sit around and talk about and degrade each other and degrade the young people. If the young person had a problem that they had to face, that was who you went to. I couldn't figure out how to do such and such and such. I don't went to here, I don't went to there. Yeah, well, I'll call you back. Then when they figure out a solution, then that's when they call, you know? So once you've seen the truth, can't nobody come and tell you a lie. They might try. They'll kill themselves trying. But once you've seen the truth, it ain't no lie. Once you done seen what it is, it's nothing else. Okay? So in order for you to understand and know love and know when somebody's loving you, you have to have experience or seen it from someone else. And like I said, once you've seen the truth, I never saw my grandfather slap the taste out of my grandmother. I told you how they deal with their problems. He didn't hit on her. He didn't get loud with her. You didn't know if they had an argument or if they had a problem. They took every single thing in the room. And like I said, he knew how to handle her. She get in there, he get crank that Corvette up. Vroom, vroom, vroom. Come on, come on, you're making me late. She in there trying to get her hair right. Vroom, 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 vroom. He revving that motor. Then she finally get out there to go get in that sucker. And that sucker sits so low, baby. She mad because she don't want to even. She like riding in it. She like it, but it dropped down so low, and he done took the tops off. So that means he done took them tops off. That means when she come back, Their hair gonna be standing all across the top of their head. See, he knew how to deal with it. He didn't have to backhand his woman a DDT, a drop kick to get her to respect him and to listen to him. He go take her on a ride. Come on, let's go get us some ice cream. Take her in that Corvette, take them tops off. I'm in there trying to help her fix her hair and get her hair right. He out there revving the motor. I'm wondering why he mean to rush her. He meant to rush her. And I'm telling you these beautiful things about beautiful black love. You know why? Because he's dead and gone now. But that legacy, that love that he left behind, he planted a seed. And the seed that he planted, you ain't gonna be able to get it out your mind. Go to the church people, go to the community people, and ask them to tell you one thing that they found wrong about him. They ain't gonna be able to tell you too much. Maybe the ladies might say I done seen women. Let me tell you something. I done seen women. My grandmother and my grandfather, this is a true love, true story. I done seen women try to pop around in front my grandfather with their bigger hips, trying to, you know how women do. My grandfather wouldn't. He turned the other way because he wasn't gonna lose that honeycomb pot that he had. He know he had him a Jew. He had him a diamond. He wasn't finna lose his diamond for nobody popping around in his face because they think they got a big booty. It's gonna take a little bit more than a big booty to keep a real. Mm. They left pictures, so many trips. They took us. Some, my mom, she was single for a while, So my grandfather picked up and my grandmother picked up the torch of being a positive and productive female and male role figure in our lives. They took us on. I mean, I went to every single theme park in almost in America, even outside, because I think SeaWorld, we went to SeaWorld, we went to Canada, went to various geographical locations, Disneyland, Six Flags, Carowinds. See, he was a cameraman. He loved taking pictures. He loved capturing. That's what he say. A picture is where I got a picture of him right now. I'm gonna tell you another thing he loved too. My grandfather and my uncle, both. My uncle worked for General Motors in Ypsilanti, Michigan, and he built motors for General Motors. And as a result of him, building motors, oftentimes what General Motors didn't understand about my uncle building those motors for them, is that he often had to come back to my grandfather because my grandfather was a real engineer, but he didn't have an education. He had to stop going to school at third grade to help his mom because his daddy died. His father died. And as a result of his father dying, he had to stop going to school and getting an education and get out there in the field and help and work and take care, help his mom. So, see, that's a real man to me. Okay. After his father died, the men knew their first responsibility. They had to take care of their mama, and he darn did it. My grandmother, when he married my grandma, oh, that's your mama. Your mama can't come stay with us. I don't like you. My grandma, that's your mama. Come on, let me help you take care of your mama. Come on, let me help you take care of your sister. And she did just that. Even he had a child before he met my grandmother. He had a child before he met her. And but when he met her, once they bonded together, my grandmother loved that child too. So, once you've seen perfection in the making, once you've seen precisely how a man is supposed to love a woman, you're not going to settle for anything else. Let somebody else go settle for it. You got to know some first thing you got to know how to do. And I had to learn, my mother taught me that you got to learn how to be alone. You got to learn how to love yourself and be content with being by yourself. Be content with being by yourself first. And that way, when a person start not giving you what you want out of a relationship, you can pick your bag up, and you can throw it on your back and get it on down the road. That's what Nina Simone said. When love is no longer being served at the table, pack your bag, baby, and get it on down the road. My grandmother told me, you don't have to put up with foolishness. My mother told me the same thing. And I'm teaching my daughters the same. I'm teaching my daughters, I'm being a little bit more intense. I'm teaching them a little bit more intensely to protect their womb. Because people come up with the slick talking, and I have to, sometimes you have to remind yourself because you can get into a relationship and you can lose a part of yourself. You can begin to lose yourself, and you have to think back and snap out of it and say, you know what? Look at here. My grandfather didn't treat my grandmother like this. He didn't cuss at her and talk to her and yell at her like that. I'm not putting up with that. Who you talking to? Goodbye. And don't look back. Okay? You got to have boundaries. Okay? You got to have certain boundaries. All right. And when a person crosses those boundaries, get it on down the road and don't feel bad about it. And one thing you have to understand, my black, beautiful queens, my Nubian queens, it just because the relationship didn't work out, don't mean something wrong with you, darling. Doesn't always mean that the problem is you. Doesn't always mean something is wrong with you. I'm so tired of watching videos of black men tell black women, you ain't good enough and there's something wrong with you. I ain't never heard my grandfather tell my grandmother she wasn't good enough. If they had a problem, they worked it out. I didn't hear him going in the barbershop, spreading all their business, talking about what's going on in the bedroom with them sexually. I didn't hear him getting any information. You wasn't going to talk about his woman. You better be careful. You better be careful. He didn't bring what they was going through with you, and you better be careful when you mention her name because he'll be ready to pull that trigger on you. Okay? So my grandfather didn't take advice from other men on how to love his woman. He just loved her just like that. It's real simple. We often make it complicated. Let me tell you something, black men, listen carefully to me. Stop going into the barber shop. Stop going to your homeboys. Stop going all around the neighborhood trying to tell people or talk about what's going on in your relationship. Okay? If you can't handle what's going on in your relationship, maybe you shouldn't be in the relationship at all. I never saw my grandfather take advice from other men about how to love my grandmother, and he did an exceptional job. And ask her. She got more cars. She got more cars than she can drive, my love. Okay? He didn't have to go around and ask nobody about how he should love his woman. And she didn't go around and ask other women how to love her man. They just loved each other. It was things that just came naturally. And I'ma just be honest with you. I haven't, and I've been on the planet for over 40 years. And I ain't seen no love like that one yet. That's why I can't. I've been asked to be married. I've been asked my hand in marriage by several people throughout the years, and I have refused. Because one thing as a woman, you got to understand. I mean, I never saw my grandfather cheat on my grandmother, and I never saw my grandmother cheat on my grandfather. So marriage is a sacred union. And when you take those vows, you got to take vows with someone I don't care what happens. I don't want to, I don't, the idea of cheating on you doesn't cross my mind on both sides. Okay. I want you to understand what I'm saying. Don't engage into I'm not getting engaged and married to nobody that I feel is going to be cheating on me or I'm going to be pushed to feel like I want to cheat on them. Oh, I want to be with somebody else because I never saw that with my grandparents. I saw them, they didn't cheat on each other. It was sacred. They loved each other. And if you bet not mention her husband's name unless you a family member talking about her man. And you bet not mention my grandmother name. I never heard him, and he didn't have a whole lot of friends. Like, he was a church man. he dealt with the men in the church if they need him to come to the deacon board meeting or whatever. But it wasn't no we going to the racetrack. If he going to the racetrack, he going to the racetrack with his sons and with family members. He wasn't going to the racetrack with no homeboys and no friends. He didn't get down like that. His number one priority was his family. That's who he hung out with. He hung out with his cousins. He hung out with his brother because that helps her feel a sense of security. And let me tell you another thing about company. When company came over, when the female company came over to visit my grandmother from the church, and hey, how you doing? And how you like the service? You know what my grandfather did? Yeah, yeah, I like it. He get up and he go in the room and close the door and cut the news on and cut the TV on and watch his television till the company gone. Then when my grandfather had company, when the men come over or the man came over from the church or wherever he came from, my grandmother would fix, yeah, you want me to fix you something to drink? You want me to fix you a little something to eat? No, well, yeah, oh no, or whatever. Then she going on in the room somewhere, and she didn't sit up in the company of him and his friends. She didn't sit up in his friend's face and run her mouth and try to be a part of that. She went in the room. And when she had company, he went in the room. It wasn't no, you can't have a friend because I'm too insecure and weak as a man, or you couldn't have a friend because I'm too insecure and weak as a woman. They had their friends. But when their friends came over, the other person showed them and the friend how much respect they had for each other. If I can't have that, I just tell you, I guess I don't know. And my children are I'm trying to shape them in the same the model of my grandmother and my grandfather. That if there was anybody on this earth that existed, it wouldn't. Don't want to be like Rosa Parks. I don't want to be like Harriet Tubman. I don't want to be like Coretta Scott King. I want to be like my grandma. That's the woman that I admire most on the planet. I saw her love a man. Mm, mm. And I saw that love reciprocated. I mean, it was like watching them love each other. It was like watching a movie. And I'm glad that I was a part of that. I'm glad that those are my grandparents and I came from that. Because everybody can't say the same. Some people ain't never spent time with their grandparents. Some people, grandparents hated them. Okay? Some people don't know who their grandparents are. I not only experienced time with a black man and a black woman that truly loved each other. And it was them against the entire world. They have left a legacy behind. Now, once I'm gone, because I'm getting these death threats, once they make me a mortal and lay my nappy headed behind in the casket, my children, they will then, carry on that legacy that they left behind. I am so proud to be a part of that. So there are people on here who think just because you didn't have a father in your life, and you got people preying on women that come from fatherless home, they think just because you didn't have a father in your life, they gonna handle you and play and flim flam. And no, like I said, I've been asked to be married several times, and I have said no because if you can't give me that, I can't give you what my grandmother gave my grandfather. I ain't finna play no games with it. I ain't taking no prisoners. I ain't taking no shots. Huh? I'm funny about allowing people to come around my family. I'm funny about sharing them. I really am. Maybe I'm a little bit selfish. Maybe I should have shared them. Maybe I should have shared. I'm funny, you know, because as I stated, it's a beautiful thing. When you find love like that, what else do you need on the planet? Hmm? I mean, she took care of the children. He went out and worked. I mean, it was like I wish I could see it once more before I close my eyes and unfold as a movie. He going out to go to work. She is home taking care of the children. And I'm gonna tell you something about her being home taking care of the children. All of the children graduated. My uncle, he didn't want to go to college. One, he just didn't want to go, but he became successful too. But just going to show you how a team works together. And I'm gonna tell you now, it wasn't all everything. She get to talking on the phone, and yeah, well, you had the church, and I heard the church, and yeah, well, not talking about people business now. Well, you know they got to put the money and just always on the phone. He'll come around there and he go, let me talk to you in the room for a minute. Or he'll say, now, I mean, you've been on that phone mighty much, flapping your doing lips. And she said, yeah, well, I had to get the yeah, but it is so much of talking on the phone. Did she understand what, okay, you're doing a little extra phone. But one thing I want you to understand, they both were allowed to have friends. They did not keep each other from building friendship. But if she saw that your friendship and you worrying about her husband, her man, and you coming over to her house too much, she gonna cut that friend. And if he saw you, if you know, I don't even remember the only time a man asked questions about my grandmother's. Hey, how's she doing? How's the family? Yeah, 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 they all right. That's the only question you ask about her. And that's the only time he really go, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, Luke, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, you ain't going, he didn't talk about his family. Because if he start talking about his family in front of people, then other people will go around and start talking about and talking trash about his family. See, you got to lead by example. And as a result of him leading by example, all of his children, he was a pillar of the community. All of his children respected him. Not only his children respected him, but other people's children respected him. And their fathers was treating their mama like trash, dogging their mama out, and they looking and say, "Dad, you a righteous man, sir. I like how you treat your wife." That's how much of an impact he had on the community. He treated his family so well. Those who were coming from, messed up families or may have come from a family where their parents weren't getting along and communicating well, they wanted to be a part of our family. And that is no lie. They wanted to be around him. They wanted to listen to what he had to say. He was considered one of the wise men. He didn't go around and talk about his own family. He didn't go around and talk about even the woman that he had before, the child that he had before my grandmother. He had a child out of wedlock before he met my grandmother. He didn't go around and talk about his baby mom and talk about her like a dog. That's the woman that he laid down with. He might not, I don't want to be with you no more. He said, look, hey, I don't want to be with you. I don't want, and he moved on. But he didn't go around and talk about her like a dog. That's still a mother of his child. Then eventually that child, if the child you didn't like disrespecting them, they ain't gonna like you. But eventually, like I said, when his son grew, my grandmother loved that child too. She loved that child as well. And I love my uncle. I don't care if his my that, he was my grandfather's child. I loved him, you know. So, it's the sad part about some of the situations is there are people who have grown up in households so damaged, so violent, so destructive that they can't be constructive and productive in a healthy relationship. They don't know how. Cussing, carrying on. I ain't never heard my grandfather use one. I'm telling you, I'm 40. I asked my daughter, asked my sons. I never heard my grandfather curse. Not one curse word. Not DAM, nothing. ASS, nothing. He didn't curse, he didn't drink, he didn't smoke, but he took care of his family. That's what the community gonna tell you about him. He didn't drink, he didn't smoke, he took care of his family. My grandmother rode around in a brand new Cadillac every year. Brand new Cadillac. Because remember, her husband not he didn't make the motor build the motors for for General Motors, but her son, my uncle, he built motors for GM. And when he would have problems with those cars, GM doesn't understand that. When my uncle would have problems with those motors, he had to drive that car all the way. He was in Detroit. He would have to drive that car all the way, those prototypes. He would have to drive those cars all the way as he was working on them and building those motors. He would have to drive that car all the way from Michigan, all the way back down here to South Carolina, just to get my grandfather to help him work on that car and to figure out what was wrong with it or what it needed. Because again, as I stated, they were built. He was my uncle was building motors for GM. And another thing about that, he hasn't gotten his credit for that either. General Motors make you think that all of these motors and these cars they create, but they're not going to tell you underneath it all, there were black men behind creating those motors. They're not going to tell you things like that. They make you think that we incompetent. So that's just to let as far as our women. No, we don't have time. I didn't ever hear my grandmother sit around and talk about a black man dating a white woman. She wasn't even concerned about that because she had her man. She didn't care whether he dated an alien. That wasn't a concern of hers. That's why I say stop. There's some things we need to be more focused on. She was focused on the churn and the grandchildren, ensuring that they had a better and a brighter future. And obviously, what is more than obvious is there were people who were thinking about her, my mama, and me, and my daughter before we were born. We have to stop thinking about the here and now and think 10 generations down the line. That's what I learned from my family. They thought about the unborn. They didn't think about them. They weren't selfish. I didn't come from a selfish family. They were not selfish. They thought about 20 generations down the line and how they was going to look back on the previous generation. And that's how we got to think too. What do we want the next generation to say about us? You know? So I hope that this was helpful. And like I said, it's the situation with Nature Boy. Even anybody in a relationship, you don't have to backhand and DDT your wife in order to get her to respect you. I ain't never seen my grandfather slap my grandmother around and beat up on her and mistreat her. And you know what he said? If I mistreat and treat a talk about like that, the people in the neighborhood in the community, they're not gonna respect me. The children not gonna respect me. That's why he didn't do those things. But he had other ways of dealing with stuff like that. He's like, I'm gonna give you this the last one. I'm gonna let it go. Like, oh gosh, she would do little stuff. Like she's sitting there watching her show on the TV, and he'll be sitting there right along with her. He'll come out the room, sit, sit by and start doing something like he'll start making little noises. And then she'll get tired and say, you know what? Can you please stop all that hacking down there? Then she'll get up and go in the room. And she get up and go in the room because she can't take it no more. Then he cut the TV off and he get up and go in the room behind her. So I'm just telling you, oh gosh. Oh, oh my goodness. I don't know which one is more funnier. How when he deals with, when they deal with each other. And like I said, they never argue in front of I never heard them argue. If he had something to say to his wife, and can I talk to you in the room for a minute? Can I speak to you in the room? So she, yeah, well, and she going on in the room. I don't know what was that. But everything was handled in the room. Okay. When they needed to talk to you, you get called to the room too. Okay. The upper room, I guess that's what you call it. And they be laying on the bed. He got his leg crossed. She got her leg crossed. She on her side. He on his side. And you in the middle. With your back, pretty much with your back against the wall. And they could be giving you some good advice for whatever situation you're dealing with. Or they could be telling you, look here, you was wrong for that. I don't like how you did such and such. If I would did something wrong, he would tell me. Okay. But when I had problems, I could go to my elders. If I had a problem with something, I could go and okay, yeah, well, I'll call you back. And they might call me back, 2 weeks later or a week later. But when they call me back, they got a solution. So, we gotta start to think, take into consideration that, you know, in some cases, violence isn't always the answer. You know, some cases, love is definitely the answer. And I learned that from them. I learned that from them. Watching them two, I'm telling you, watching them two unfold and love each other. Man, I get, I don't know what else to say. That was one of the most greatest things. You talking about big screens and movie theaters and things on the TV, but the best thing that I've seen, these eyes have seen on this planet is true love. Mm, I wish, like I said, I don't desire to be like Coretta Scott King. I don't desire to be Rosa Parks or the Harriet Tubman. I don't desire to be the richest woman on the planet. I want to be like my grandma. Okay. So with that being said, Hotep.